Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, we have the privilege to interview Coach Charles Davis, who is a former Aycock Baseball head coach. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Brandon. I appreciate you asking me to do this and everything, and I'm more than happy to do it. But I'm doing good. I hope you are also.
Yes, I'm doing good. Can you tell us about your experience being a coach?
I started out basically when I was in high school. Played all three sports and things like that, but baseball was my first love. I was fortunate enough to go to Mount Olive Junior College. Mount Olive was a junior college at that time, and played 2 years there, and then transferred to North Carolina Wesleyan. And I played 2 years, my junior and senior year at Wesleyan under Mike Fox, who is the baseball coach, of course, at Carolina now. And I was also stayed on after my playing days were over. I was 2 years his assistant. And so that's how I really got started into coaching. I knew it was something I wanted to do. My high school coach, E.D. Hall, was a math teacher and baseball coach, and he was a big influence also. So I knew from, early on, I basically, I wasn't good enough to get drafted or anything, but I wanted to stay involved with the game. And Coach Fox kind of opened that door for me. And, I left Wesleyan after 2 years as his assistant and was hired at Norwayne. And back then, Norwayne, of course, was a junior high. It was 7th, 8th, 9th grade, and Aycock was 10, 11, and 12. Coached there 2 years, and then the county decided to, move to a middle school and move all the freshmen over to the high school. And so I came over to Aycock in the fall of, or August of 1990. The baseball job was opened. Dean Sauls was the athletic director at that time, and Bobby Cooley was principal, and they hired me to be the varsity baseball coach. And also I coached JV football there and girls basketball also. And, pretty much the rest is history. Dean Sauls wanted to get out of the AD, and I took it over in 94, 95, I think it was. And he was still working at the school, so he helped me along also a lot like that. So, but that's how I got my start in coaching. Coach Fox was a mentor to me. A lot of things we did at Aycock, I got from him while I played for him, and then the assistant coach for him at Wesleyan.
That's so inspiring that Coach Mike Fox was an inspiration for you.
Yes, he was, and still is. I mean, we still communicate, talk a lot, and I'm just Carolina was his dream job, and I'm so thankful and glad that he got a chance to go back there and has had a wonderful career there at Carolina.
Can you talk about your legacy as a coach at Aycock?
Well, I mean, one thing, Brandon, is I was blessed with a good community. For one, they were behind me. They were supportive. Had lots and lots of great baseball players from Aycock. It wasn't anything I did. I mean, those kids grew up playing the game and things like that, so it made my job easier. But on administration, they were very supportive. Booster Club was very supportive, and my assistant coaches. I was fortunate enough later on in my career that at one point in time, all of my assistants were former players at Aycock. And so that made my job a lot easier. I could give my assistants, they knew exactly what we were going to do at practice, things that we were going to do. Back in the mid-2000s, I made a decision to let those guys start coaching the bases, and I kind of stayed in the dugout. And I enjoyed that part. It seemed like I could coach more from the dugout in game situations, but I also had confidence in my assistants to let them coach the bases and things like that. So I was very fortunate to work with some good people. Very blessed.
What is there any players that are in the MLB that you have coached before?
Well, Rob Wooten was, and Rob has just recently retired. He was with Cincinnati. Talked or communicated with Rob probably about a month ago. His goal was to go back and try to play again. He was supposed to be in AAA, but he's made it in the major leagues before with Milwaukee. And but now he's retired, but he's also going into coaching also with Cincinnati. So you know, he made it up there. That was a proud moment. I think during my career we had about 8 guys I think that were actually drafted. Not so much out of Aycock, but once they went to college and actually played minor league ball and stuff like that. The one thing is, and tells you how good of players we had. In my 27-year career, we had over 70 players to go to play college baseball. And but again, that was those guys could play. It made my job easier because they knew the game, knew how to play. So I was very blessed to be able to do that.
That's so inspirational. Can you tell me about your experience getting into the North Carolina High School Coaching Hall of Fame?
Yeah, that happened. I've been a member of the North Carolina Baseball Coaches Association for right many years, and the one thing about the baseball coaches, and I'll say this, it's almost like a fraternity. Now on game day, we want to beat each other and things like that, but before the game and after the game, most of the baseball coaches are friends, and so I made a lot of good friends during my career. And we were all members of the North Carolina Baseball Coaches Association. And then when I retired, I was contacted by them. And 2017, when I was inducted into the Hall of Fame, also went in with one of my good friends, Charlie Spivey, who was a longtime coach at Lee County High School, and Coach Smith, who was at Rocky Mount High School and at South Johnston. So I was fortunate to go in with those 2 guys, and Pat Smith was his name. And, you know, it was a blessing to be able to go in with those guys. And again, it's, you know, I was blessed simply because of the players that I had, and also my assistant coaches, the community, again, the booster club, the administration. You know, I worked for some great principals who let me do my job. And I really appreciate, you know, them letting me do that.
Can you talk about your experience starting the Aycock Athletic Foundation?
Talking about as the AD and stuff.
Yes.
I started back again in I think it was 94, 95. Mr. Dean Sauls was the athletic director at that time, and he wanted to spend more time with his family. And so I took over then. At that time, we were a 2A high school. We had maybe 750 to 800 students, but we were beginning to grow. And you know, now Aycock's the largest high school in the county. So we had to add more sports during that time. You know, when I first started, you basically had to, you know, your basic sports, and that was it. So, you know, the one thing about that is it took the booster club, and I'll say this, our booster club is probably the best around. They had to raise lots of money and for us to get things started. And, you know, we were able to hire some very good coaches in those sports too. So, you know, again, it was, it wasn't just me, it was a team effort. You know, and the word team, of course, you know, together, everybody achieves more. And so it's not just one person. It takes everybody doing it. And we were on the same page. I had principals who had a clear vision of what they wanted the athletic department to be like. And, you know, they were very supportive also. So, you know, it's again, nothing I did on my own, believe me. It's we just had I had a lot of good people surrounding me, and, you know, that we all had the same vision, and we wanted Aycock to be the best around.
Can you talk about how it felt as a father and as a coach, knowing that your daughter, Connor, went into coaching just like you did?
Yeah, that was and again, Connor was a lot like me. When she went off to college, she knew that she wanted to she went to play volleyball, and she knew that she wanted to be a high school teacher and a coach. And you know, it's been very good experience. She's been doing it now for 4 years. Her first 2 years, she was a JV volleyball coach, and then that coach stepped aside, the varsity coach, and she moved into the varsity role. And it's a pleasure. I mean, me and my wife, we We don't miss many of her matches and things like that. And it's good to sit back and just see her and see how she handles situations and things. So yes, very proud of her, and her coaching career already is has taken off, and she's done real well at Holly Springs High School.
How was it coaching Kyle as your son and seeing him going into Mount Olive College, following
Yeah,
your footsteps?
well, and that was good also. The one thing about it, Kyle always wanted me to coach him, and a lot of times, I don't know if coaches who's coached their sons could say that, but he really wanted me to coach him, from age 13 on up. I didn't do a whole lot with them when they were little, but then once they got on the big field and things like that, I got more involved with it. But he matured and he grew a lot. He was on as a sophomore on 2015 team that finished state runners up. He kept working, kept getting better and better. In his senior year, 2016, he was actually pitcher of the year that year. Had some very good stats. He was fortunate enough to go to Pitt Community his first 2 years, and over there with Coach Ethan, Tommy Ethan at Pitt. And as a freshman, one of our big thrills were, in fact, it's been 4 years ago now, or 3 years ago now, is they actually won their regional and made it to the Junior College World Series out in Oklahoma. So that was a good experience for him, and he kept working and everything, and fortunate enough to go to Mount Olive. Last year as a junior, they had a very good year, made it to the regionals and stuff. And this year, of course, with the virus, everything got cut short. But I hate that, because Mount Olive was having a fabulous year. Coach Walt does a great job with those guys over there. Kyle personally was having a good year also, but there was a group of guys there that they had one goal in mind, and that was to try to get back to the World Series. And I hated to see their season end, and just like anybody, I mean, the whole, everybody's in that same boat the way it ended, but a lot of those guys are going NCAA grant them another year, so they are going to come back. And so he does have one more year at Mount Olive. So we have one more year, blessed to have one more year to watch him play.
Yes, I know, because going to Mount Olive games, I'm very upset for them because I was so disappointed,
Yeah,
because I know how hard they worked.
And Brandon, you do a great job of covering Mount Olive and covering all sports. And I know, you graduated from Aycock and everything too, but, we appreciate you guys doing what you're doing. And so that means a lot to see a former student to come through. And, as I know the way you love sports and everything, and to cover sports and stuff like that. So, I appreciate what you do also, and the coverage that you give Mount Olive and Aycock and all the teams in Wayne County. So you do a great job with that. So, and I wish you continued success doing that, and I know you will.
Thank you. Can you talk about your experience being named after the Aycock baseball field?
Yeah, that was all Coach Dave Thomas. And Coach Thomas was former football coach and AD at Aycock back in the 80s. And then, of course, he was the county athletic director. And when he retired, he was on the school board. And while he was on the school board, he approached me about naming the field after me, and also the tennis courts after Luke Vail. And, Coach Vail had a tremendous career coaching tennis. And, he put Aycock tennis on the map in North Carolina. And so Coach Thomas was really behind that, pushing that and everything. And, I really appreciate Coach Thomas for doing that. Again, one thing I always wanted to do was I wanted the players to have pride in the field and things like that. So, the Booster Club again helped with some money and made some upgrades to it. We had a lot of donations and stuff, but again, it's quite an honor. I really appreciated Coach Thomas, and of course, Coach Thomas is no longer with us, but that was one thing he wanted to do before he got off the Board of Education. So yes, it was it's quite an honor, and I really appreciate him doing that for us.
What advice would you give upcoming coaches and even upcoming athletic directors getting into the field?
One thing is, as young coaches, and I tell my daughter this all the time, number one, you have to be honest and honest with your players. And it's changed some. I mean, be honest with players, be honest with parents. Go to work every day and you give everything you got, your best effort. And if the athletes see you doing that, then they'll do the same thing for you. And and that's with anything, any job or whatever. Go with some enthusiasm. Coaching is tough. You got to be able to take the losses as well as you take the wins and things like that. The main thing I say is build relationships, and not only build relationships with your players and the coaches as an AD, but build them with other coaches from other schools and things like that. And that's the one thing about the coaching, and I'll go back to that baseball fraternity again. I feel like it's a fraternity. Even though on game day we do want to beat each other and everything, but we do share ideas and things like that, and we do talk a lot. And that's one of the things that I miss right now. As far as being a head coach, Coach Thomas took over for me, Alan Thomas, my brother-in-law, and has done a tremendous job out there with Aycock and stuff. And he's allowed me to come back and help him some, and I like that role. I mean, I really do. My time was up. I had spent 27 years there, and it was time for me to turn it over to someone else, and also allow me to watch Kyle play. And that was my agreement with Coach Thomas when I went back. If Kyle had a baseball game, I was planning on being and watch him play. And so the main thing is build relationships, not only with the with your players, but maybe with the parents, community. Show them that you really care about your program, that you care about the players, and a lot of times things will fall into place for you.
Thank you for your interview. Where can we find you at?
You talking about on the
yes, on social media.
I am on Twitter, Coach _ Davis 8. I do not have Facebook. I do not have Instagram or anything like that. I'm not real big on the social media, but I am on Twitter. So, and I do stay on that some, and I'll retweet a lot of things on there that I think are good for not only for baseball, but for all sports and stuff.
Thank you again, Coach Davis, for your inspirational story.
You can Brandon, thank you so much for asking me. And I really appreciate you asking me to do this. And again, good luck to you. You're doing a great job, and continued success in your field, because I know this is something that you love to do. And I really appreciate what you're doing. It means a lot to see our former students at Aycock to succeed, and you're going to be very successful doing this. So we appreciate that too. And thanks for having me on.
Thank you. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at _Brandon. I'm sorry, Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram. You can find us on Twitter at _Brandon, and you can find us on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and share, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Davis, for your interview.
Thank you, Brandon. Anytime, need anything, let me know. Thank you.